Pac-12 championship is Friday night. Let's start our analysis there. Number 11 Utah taking on number 4 USC. This is a rematch. USC is 2.5-point favorites here, according to Vegas. It's Friday night, Fox, 7 p.m. kick. If you're not doing anything else, I highly advise you to have this on the TV. I mentioned this is a rematch, right? Utah, in a very emotional game at home, toppled the Trojans in their only loss of the season, 43-42. It's interesting. Trey, we've talked about as we kind of led up to championship week, it's so hard to beat teams twice in the same season. It's just statistically, it's not very likely. And yet, I don't know if this is on the probability or if ESPN matchup index is just wrong. They give Utah a 61% chance to win this game. And I'm starting to wonder if Vegas knows something as well, because Utah on the money line is only 135. So, I think this is going to be a close game regardless, but it really feels like, I know USC is 2.5-point favorites, but the way the money's coming in and the way that the predictions are leaning, you're not very hard pressed to find people that say Utah knocks off the Trojans here.
Yeah, I think as a college football universe, we're all just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop for USC. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they've had a great season. They're 11-1. They're if we can call it that, they're a Cinderella story. I'm not sure we can call it that with
Yeah.
USC, but they're kind of the darling Cinderella story representing the Pac-12 first shot at the playoff in a while. So I don't know. Like, I'm torn on if I'm happy we're getting this rematch because that was an all-time just classic game given the situation, given the scene in Salt Lake City that weekend, or if I'd rather see USC face off against a new team like Washington. But I don't know. Getting USC getting a shot at a revenge and that revenge game narrative in Vegas is pretty cool. And if you're gonna bet on any team to beat a team twice, you might as well bet on Utah, right? Because we saw what they did to the Oregon Ducks within, I think, 3 weeks of each other last
Hmm.
year. So Utah's been in this situation before, having to knock off a team that they've already beaten. And Utah is a team that's gotten better as the season has gone on. They had the early loss at Florida, they had the early setback at UCLA as well. And ever since then, it just seems like everything's clicked. And if you're looking for a reason to pick against USC, you're going to bet against the defense, right? You're going to bet against Cam Rising in that offense at Utah, just exploiting the USC defense in a way that they did in Salt Lake City. My cause for pause there, though, is the USC defense has quietly been playing a little bit better, especially since that game. They gave up a lot of points to Utah. And ever since then, you can look at the final score numbers, and I think they're just a little bit misleading because a lot of times USC is up by so many points that they just kind of pull back, and the other team is just airing it out all over the field. And that's making those final scores look closer than they actually were. I don't know if I've ever seen a team have that happen as many times as USC has. And obviously, that's the fruit of a bad defense, right? You're going to give up a lot more garbage time points if you don't have depth on defense. But I think it's a little bit misleading. And I was really impressed by the defensive effort of USC last week against Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame's not a juggernaut on offense, but they've shown enough improvement for me to be pretty confident in them. I'm actually going to take the Trojans to get that revenge and cover that 2.5 point spread.
Yeah, my darling Utes made it to the Pac-12 championship game just like I predicted. No speed bumps, no hiccups, nothing to see here. No,
Nothing,
no,
nothing
no
behind the
anything
curtain.
weird. Yeah, no,
Don't look
nothing at
behind the
all.
curtain.
Don't look. It's fine. No, I mean, look, this is a cool rematch. I'm glad that we're getting the rematch. USC needs to play better in this one. Obviously, I mean, they lose the first one by a point. I think they're going to need to play better than they had, and even I think on offense, maybe a little bit better than they had even last week against a very good Notre Dame defense. Everything they've shown us so far this year shows that they're going to be able to do it. As opposed to what some people in our YouTube comments might think, I do think USC has a very good passing offense. So if you don't get that message, come to this moment right here. Okay, I might point you this way if you say it again. USC has a very good passing offense. They just didn't necessarily show up as much as they should have against Notre Dame. So let's just rest that one there for a second. But they're going to have to play a little bit better. I think they're going to be able to do that. I do think this is the Caleb Williams Heisman moment this week. The only issue I have with Utah in this game is that the regular season matchup was a Disney movie. I mean, when you talk about the scene, the environment, the hand painted helmets, the tribute to the teammates that had passed, and just everything going around it, the 2 point conversion at the end to get, I mean, everything about that's a Disney movie. I feel like the credits have already kind of rolled on this one. I feel like they've played a lot better down the stretch. Utah's been playing a lot better on offense. They've been scoring a lot more points. I just don't know that Cam Rising will be 400 plus through the air good. He was sensational in that regular season matchup. If he passes for 350, that may actually not be good enough just based on the standards
Mhm.
of the last game, right? So I think the Trojans end up winning this one by a pretty decent margin to shut the door on their case for the playoff. They're going to go ahead and win this one. Trojans fight onto a playoff spot. Give me USC minus 2.5.
I'm with you guys. I'm going to take the Trojans minus 2.5. I'm also going to take Caleb Williams to win the Heisman. In a year where no one has really come out and claimed it, there have been good performances across the country. Do not get me wrong, but as far as CJ Stroud didn't show up in the biggest moment. Can't be him. Bijan Robinson. Texas has 4 losses. Unfortunately, this is a quarterback's award, and if your team isn't vying for a college football playoff, you're not even going to get invited to New York most times, right? Drake May was like not even getting considered despite putting up video game numbers. So I think kind of by default, despite a lot of historic achievements. I mean, Blake Corum at Michigan doing amazing things. I hope he gets an invite. I don't know that for sure. I think he will get one, but this seems like Caleb Williams' show to me for all the reasons that you guys outlined. I just, Utah had everything go perfect in a storybook ending to win that game. It's just not going to happen away from home this time. I think the Trojans win. I think, honestly, they probably find a way to pull away by 2 scores with their playoff spots fully intact. So give me USC
I
as
will
well.
say there's one narrative we're overlooking just a little bit, and that's the shouldn't be here narrative because Utah, by all accounts, should not be in this game. The tiebreaker rule is so weird. The fact
Yeah.
that it came down to UCLA and Cal, and usually in college football, I don't know. I just feel like more often than not, when there's a team that shouldn't be there, they outperform expectations. So that's
You're
my
right.
narrative street. Look at the Utah Utes.
That is a
And
very good point.
I also want to say, in a slight defense of Caleb Williams, and I know again that's going to come as a shock to our friend in the comments there. His numbers have been ridiculous this year, right?
Yeah.
And we say nobody's really come out and claimed it. I still think we're waiting on kind of the signature moment, like we've always said. You need that signature moment to win the Heisman, and certainly nobody else nationally has really done that. But if you just look at some of the yardage numbers, obviously, he has 34 touchdowns in the season to only 3 picks. He's got 3,700 passing yards. The last few games, Notre Dame, he passed for 232. But if you go back beyond that, 470 against UCLA, 360 against Cal, 411 against Arizona, 381 against Utah. And you can even go back to 348 against Arizona State. He's had some ridiculous games this year. He's had some ridiculous numbers that he's put up this year. And I think I want to make sure that we're clear here. He's put up some crazy numbers. He just hasn't quite had that primetime moment, I think, to
Yeah.
say that, yeah, this is my Heisman. It's mine. Shut the door. I think that's what I was saying earlier. He gets that this week. He gets that moment where he makes that play, he makes that throw, he finishes a scramble, something like that, where we go, wow, okay, yeah, that's the Heisman Trophy winner.
Gracious him. How about